Almost steady.
It was said with love.
Okay, now, what do we got?
It was.
Right on the
With great friendship.
You know, either the later May or the early June session.
Could be.
So starting with the small.
So are we gonna not vote on this one?
She does, she does anything.
So we're only voting on this one. Okay. The ones we pay for is a month.
Yeah.
So it's like, we gotta spend money to get into the system.
I have been preoccupied with my son's graduation.
Hey.
Do it on the small case.
I sent you a side email today.
Hey.
Hey, what's the availability from the 22nd?
Do the deal tonight?
Yeah, so.
Surgery, Kevin comes back on the 20th.
How are you?
So I'm trying to see what's available starting next Wednesday.
Oh, thanks for that. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. I think Maya's can
We
be
saw
there.
that. Hello. I did not recognize you as your
Kind of is pretty good.
More or less.
My back ladies.
Oh, it's true.
Well, no,
Well,
they
there's
knew,
one grandma
no,
that can do
they
that. I'm
knew.
assuming that's.
Well, it shows that they're just
I'm not going to.
Well, that's kind of.
Bingo.
Here today, when I was at my house, it was one of those days.
Robin's back and trying to recover.
You ready?
And then I'm not
For the interview.
graduation. And then
Hi.
it's all fun.
Hang out in the back.
I'm good. We're back to the house.
Say hi.
There's a stack of right there.
Yeah.
Bill, you ready to go?
I think that's more. That's a whole package.
No, no.
Just what day?
These days, next week, anything else around. It's 23rd or the 22nd.
What's their excuse?
Okay.
How many
Okay, I'll take it.
You have people working.
My head's going down.
The only thing I'm gonna have to fix is this, it's supposed to be the employee.
Yeah, that's not all right. Get employee surveys up.
And your funds are
I printed one for you.
Thanks for the link. I think
I hesitated to say that. You don't know this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have agendas for the meeting today. If you'd like them, generally have these in the box.
came in with another company that below us. So they switched it.
Sir,
We have a sign-in sheet up front.
we do not have a sign-in. Would you like one? I got one in the drawer. Give us cubes? Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody else.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's been one of those coming and going days, and when I saw Brett, I was like, if you don't get on. They said that, and I was like, oh, that's too.
Thursday?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, I've got dark sky right after.
That's just, we got Trails Committee.
Do you?
Lodgers tax at 10. I'll call it.
All on Thursday?
Committee early.
You bringing breakfast for everybody?
It's just because Lodgers tax, I had to get it
They don't get that, they don't.
Doesn't resonate.
There'll be a sign-in sheet on the back table if anyone would like to bring anything to the council that is not on the agenda. Put it on the sign-in sheet, I'll take it to the mayor and he'll call you up at the appropriate time.
Okay,
You don't have to change it.
got it.
Just leave it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Think of anything, be right on the back table.
Whatever works for you. You can be the liaison or no? 7:30. Well, since you're that, shit.
She works.
Does she? I thought she worked for the state.
I was under the impression she was their staff, maybe not.
Okay. See, I thought she was statewide for all.
And I could easily do that. I was under the impression she was.
I have 3 more packets with some of the detail of the meeting that we're gonna talk about that I generally just print for the councilman, but I got 3 extra.
I'll take
If
one.
anybody would like
Yep.
one of these? There's one customer. Going, here's another.
I'll come over.
If you want to give them away, I'll take them.
If you did simultaneously.
Judy says the same thing. When I leave, they're all closed. There would be a building if I did. Just have a hole in the middle. And it could be a piece of bread.
I do. They can match what we have. 41 days. What we have right now.
So you could really just call it up and call
Concentrate on what they're charged.
Yeah.
$1.2 million machine. For their operation to come here, of course, that's their guys, trucks, trailers, loaders. We're assuming what's that estimate? 100 cubic yards. How much is sitting on the ground?
About 250,000.
Cubic yards. That's right. Yes.
The estimates go up to 400,000.
That's right. You can get it right.
This isn't 800 horsepower. Actually. It's the size of a tractor trailer.
Yes.
Massive.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please join me for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the council. Mayor Lindsay,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Howe, not present. Councilman Humbert.
Here.
Councilman Weeks.
Here.
Councilman Craig.
Here.
You have a quorum, you may proceed.
This time I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with a couple of typo corrections. First, under item B, Chuck should be Hasford, that A there. And then under item K, approval of the employer survey, not the employee survey.
I would also say that Jackie Boyd is it also a typo?
Yeah.
That should be J.
I'll get that fixed.
CQUE.
I'll second.
All in favor with the changes?
Aye.
Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from the April 17th, 2024 meeting.
Make a motion for approval of the consent agenda and minutes of the April 17th, 2024 meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, at this time, I have one person who has signed up to speak on items not pertaining to this agenda.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Manager Weir, Clerk. Mark Manley from the resort. Just wanted to deliver some excellent news. You all may know about this, but not everybody here may. Today, the Forest Service saw fit to grant $10 million to hardening this community against wildfire threat in the future. This is something that the Cimarron Watershed Alliance has been working on in conjunction with the resort for many, many months. This is great news given what we went through with Hermit's Peak. This money is going to help a great deal. This community is going to look a lot different than it does currently in terms of fire risk 5 years from now. In conjunction with the $10 million, the Forest Service itself is also going to engage over the coming years in a significant program itself in the forest south of 64 in another area that should work in conjunction with the areas that will be served by the $10 million grant. And the scope of the Forest Service work may even exceed the amount that will be done under the $10 million. There's going to be a lot of questions from the community, obviously, how this is going to be implemented. I would just suggest that folks, there is a meeting on the 31st in Eagle Nest. The Watershed Alliance will be heading that meeting. It'll have a lot to do. There'll be more information. But essentially, landowners will be able to apply and to have their properties cleared, thinned, dead, down disease, that type of work. The entire $10 million, that program will be administered by the Watershed Alliance as to where and how that fits in with the CWPP. But in areas that are high risk, namely the south and the west of the community. That will be served first, and the Watershed Alliance also anticipates that perhaps in 2026, another grant, like the one that was just issued, they may be able to apply for and seek additional monies for this. So it's a great start. That in conjunction with the Forest Service and their initiative, like I said, could be a complete game changer for this community in terms of fire risk. I know there are a lot of people not only worried about their own homes that lived through the Hermit's Peak fire, folks that are coming to the community but concerned about insurance rates or even being able to get insurance, those types of issues. Like I said, this is going to make things look a lot different years from now. So anyway, just wanted to deliver that news, and I'm looking forward to not worrying so much about every time the wind blows in the spring. So thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great, excellent news. Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah.
Moving on to any announcements and or proclamations by the council. Anybody has anything? Then we'll move on to staff reports. We can start with Public Works Director Epler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll make this brief, just a quick update of what Public Works has been involved in with the change of the season. Streets Department has been active and out trying to address immediate need issues that don't require the import of too much material, basically trying to clean up what we can on the roads that do have good material on them. We have done a couple of projects on Camino Real with some material that we had in stock, and done a lot of work on the chip sealed areas, trying to stay on top of filling those holes in. And Water Department has started to address some long-standing small water leaks, as well as getting started on installing water meters. And they've already got a good number of them put in, and they're progressing pretty well on those, doing real well. We did receive the components for the SCADA system. The installation will begin on Monday for the components that actually mount on the equipment. The work on the electrical cabinets will start at a later time, which will allow us to remotely control components of the water system. But as soon as the SCADA equipment that we have right now is installed, we'll have our real-time data and be able to monitor tanks and tank levels and so forth and so on. So gonna get moving on that here real quick.
Quick question, that was the west side that we've done. We still need to do the east side, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we're gonna have that as an item at some point to approve a similar budget and scope for the opposite side?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will. I do have a quote for the SCADA and electrical upgrade for Tank 7, which they've just started the construction of the new tank. And there was a surplus of funding because the bid came in lower than the dollars that we had. And we're utilizing some of that money to get the SCADA and the electric upgrade at the Tank 7 location. We will be budgeting for the remainder of the SCADA system in this budget cycle. Last thing, maintenance department has been, I think, doing a great job clearing the sidewalks, and they still have a bit of work to do. It's going to require some help from the streets department and the water truck. We intend to do that on Friday.
Fantastic. Looking great.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Fire Chief Britnell.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Mayor Lindsay, Manager, Rear Council. State Fire Marshal audit finding and penalty for FY 22-23. The audit for the prior fiscal year by the State Fire Marshal has been completed. I want to thank the Office of the State Fire Marshal for their patience and assistance as we work together to resolve mutual serious concerns. I also want to thank Valerie Witt, our Fire Department Senior Administrative Assistant, and former Fire Chief Kevin Henson for their dedicated work with this project. Working together, we were able to negotiate and decrease our liability from a potential $205,909 down to $47,641. Of this amount, $19,927 was occurred under former Interim Chief Greg Syme, and the majority of the remaining balance occurred under former Chief Greg Bobick. This item is on the agenda as an action item later during this meeting. We have been asked to provide payment on or before May 31st. Failure to do so could put our next FY State Fire Fund allocation at risk. We have already begun the final work remaining for the first 6 months of our current fiscal year, FY 23-24, and we intend to follow the same process. We believe we will need to pay an additional penalty based on the audit findings. Are there any questions on this subject?
Do we think this is going to slow up our design work on the new fire station at all, or is that a separate issue as far as the fire marshal's concerned?
Mayor Lindsay, Councilor Crane, I do not believe so. As long as we're stay on course, we should be fine. Fire station building and design grant, the $400,000 grant from the State Fire Marshal for the planning and design of a new fire station had a deadline for work that we were unable to meet due to the intensive work required for the above audit. We were able to secure an extended deadline from the State Fire Grant Council, and we thank them for their patience and understanding. Our extended deadline is 12/31/24. We will begin work on this project as soon as we have finished the budget process for our next fiscal year. EMS Fund Act.
Is this, just back up. Is this for that to be completed? That's a deadline for the building, for the improvements to be completed?
For the original grant for the $400,000 for building and design.
Building and design.
Building and design.
Which should probably read that. It's planning and design.
Planning and design, yes. I'm sorry. Okay. EMS Fund Act. Unfortunately, former Chief Bobick failed to complete the annual EMS Fund Act application within the required time frame. We appealed to the State EMS Bureau for an extension, but that was denied. This will result in the village losing approximately $40,000 in EMS Fund Act proceeds for the next fiscal year, which will unfortunately put added pressure on the general fund. New ambulance delay. Former Chief Henson applied for and received a grant from the State EMS Fund Act, EMS Special Projects Vehicle Replacement Committee for partial funding of a new ambulance back in 2021. This order was placed over 2 years ago, and I recently learned that due to communication delays between former Chief Bobick and the ambulance manufacturer, our delivery has been delayed an additional 6 months. We hope to take delivery of the ambulance in late November 2024. Our new ambulance will cost $305,315. The State EMS Fund Act will cover $131,880. The remaining $173,435 will need to come from the village general fund. This was budgeted for during the past 2 budget cycles, and we will need a PO encumbrance before the end of this fiscal year, with an understanding that the total amount of $305,315 is due upon delivery of the new ambulance. Our current first out ambulance, 2379, was funded by an emergency appropriations from the governor's office following the winter crash of 2021 that occurred in the Back Basin and is not related to this project. Concern over the upcoming summer future fire EMS response needs. I need to raise a serious concern that we may not have sufficient personnel to meet the needs of our community in the coming months. We currently provide consistent staffing for only one advanced life support ambulance crew and try to staff a second ambulance crew when we can. That's not going to work for the remaining year and beyond, and I want to share why. The average EMS call with transportation to Taos has a total call time of 3 to 3.5 hours. For the past several years, we have routinely had 2 EMS calls occur at the same time. And on several occasions, we have had all 3 of our ambulances committed and running calls, leaving the village without coverage. I do not believe that Eagle Nest will be returning to a 24/7 certificated ambulance service anytime soon. And their temporary PRC limited staffing extension ends June 15th. While we are not required by law to routinely provide EMS service to them, we see no other choice available to us. That means we will continue to spend Village of Angel Fire staff and related expenses to respond to EMS calls in Eagle Nest. Most importantly, it means less resources available for our village anytime we respond to Eagle Nest. We have confirmed with risk management at the resort that the clinic at the base of the ski area will not open this summer. That means that injuries and illnesses that occur on the mountain during the summer bike park will likely result in a 911 call. We have confirmed this with the owner of the Ultimed Clinic. This issue alone has caused for significant concern as it will absolutely impact our ability to handle EMS calls for service. Last year, the clinic saw multiple patients every day the bike park was open. The Moreno Valley Healthcare Clinic is not accepting new patients and is also experiencing difficulty staffing with a mid-level practitioner. Summer construction, both of Highway 64 and 434, will soon start back up, and with that comes more EMS calls and irregular delays in transport return due to limited traffic flow. This will further extend our total call time. Last, we have already received multiple requests for dedicated ambulance standby, including the upcoming rodeo, May 25th and 26th, the mountain bike racing, I think there's 2 events already scheduled, balloons over Angel Fire, 4th of July holiday weekend, Memorial Day, President's Day, and New Year's holiday. During our upcoming budget workshop, I will propose a budget in line with the minimum staffing that I feel necessary to protect our community. FY25 firefighter recruitment application. During the 2024 New Mexico legislative session, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed legislation providing $25 million in grants for statewide and local fire departments to recruit firefighters and EMTs. The funds will be distributed to successful applicants as follows. First year allocation is 100%, second year allocation is 50% by fund, 50% by employer, third year allocation 25% by fund, 75% by employer, and fourth and subsequent years shall be 100% fund by employer. We participated in a DFA webinar earlier this afternoon to learn more about this program. Fire departments must apply for funding from May 15th, 2024 through June 15th. The funding must go to new employees and can't be used for recruitment bonuses or incentives to attract people. The funds can only be used for salaries and benefits. The maximum proposed per new firefighter for salaries and wages is $65,000. This will not cover all of the expenses, but it will certainly help. I would like your support in immediately applying for funding to support 3 additional firefighter EMS providers via this grant opportunity. If successful, we need a resolution post-award and before DFA releases funds. Do you have any questions regarding this? New Mexico Fire Protection Fire Grant Council eligibility. The application period opens July 1st, 2024 and closes on August 31st, 2024. The maximum amount awarded to a single applicant should not exceed $500,000. The top 2 priorities for the fire department are communications, which is a new radio tower, repeater, mobile radios, portable radios, and a base station. All radios must be capable of 700 megahertz programming. This project will easily be $500,000. Self-contained breathing apparatus. Our SCBAs are beyond their service life. We do not meet current NFPA requirements and certainly will not meet the future NFPA changes coming for SCBAs. This project will likely be $250,000 or more. Does council have any questions for me?
What is the expected life of those apparatuses?
The SCBA's, those are our air packs that we wear to go into fires, 10 years. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other staff reports this evening? There he is, Lieutenant.
All right. Mayor Lindsay, Councilman, Clerk Group, and then the village manager. I'm here just to give a monthly status report of what the police department has been accomplishing. While certainly not as dramatic as our fire chief, I would say that we have definitely been dealing with a lot of shortfalls, and we are moving forward in a positive direction. So we did end up hiring a new police officer who will be taking over as Travis Jarrett leaves. So that is a positive. We'll be able to continue coverage as we have been with just on-call times in between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. We have had 9 citations, 11 case and supplemental reports, 24 call for service reports, and 1 arrest during the month of April. Still plenty of activity. We've definitely been busy with the 3 officers taking care of most of it. As far as the police department, we have a project to have a concrete pad put in the side entrance that is moving forward, and then I have quotes coming for the pavilion or a covering over the side entrance to allow for protection from weather and easy egress and access to vehicles when we have someone detained. And then we have flooring that's going to a quote, and then we also have we've needed a camera system inside of our cells that's going to be put in hopefully within the next month. That has been paid for, and the project should be starting this month. As far as what we're looking at for budget, I've gone over the budget many times. We're looking at the need for a serious increase for officers to get the chief position filled and the other position, and we're asking for another position. So we'll have 7 total for the police department. Right now we can only fund 6 with the current budget, but I would like to try and increase it to 7 at some point, because we do need it, especially if we're going to be trying to enforce the new, the planned OHV acceptance in the village. We've had 3 applicants for chief of police, so hopefully we'll have that position filled by June. I've been working on a pay scale for the department, and in order to do that, it requires policy changes, and so I've been looking at how we can go about changing policy to allow for a department to handle internally the pay scale, to allow us to really focus what each department needs, and then that will be duplicated with other departments once this process is ironed out. Projects, what I'm looking at in the future, we have LPRs, the license plate readers. I'm working on hopefully a grant that we can get to get those installed. That will greatly assist us with any kind of theft investigations, as well as it gives us vehicle dynamics that help us throughout the village for tourism, road upgrades, things of that nature. Also trying to reestablish our drone program, and then also looking at new body cams and car cams as the next project on our list. And with that, I stand for any questions.
The license plate readers would be mobile on the vehicles or fixed?
Fixed, yeah, they'd be fixed on the side, looking at putting it on the north end of the village, the south end of the village, with maybe some interspersed throughout the rest of the village, yeah.
And it's my understanding that the municipal league would help fund body cam. Is that true for dash cams as well, or do you know?
I only know of a grant that assists with body cam. I don't know about municipal league. I haven't heard of that. So that is something I can follow up with, if you've heard that.
It was made mention at one of our municipal league meetings. There was legal updates that basically because they're our insurer, they want to make sure that we have the latest and greatest as far as camera systems to go, because they're the ones ultimately that end up with, you know, the legal side of the equation. So
Right.
certainly worth looking into there.
Absolutely, I will. And then the camera system is also, you're able to increase the capabilities. They have a Condor camera as well, which is kind of it's a 360 degree, up to 400 feet out, like camera you can put at a high point in the village. It'll give you direct data it'll link up with the LPR so that it can track that vehicle as it moves through the village, as well as you can give the public access, a limited access, so that they can see road conditions, ski conditions, things of that nature. So it would be really beneficial for the village overall. Okay. Any more questions? All right. Thank you for your time.
And that'll wrap up our staff reports. We can move on to committee reports. Let us Mike Overby. Report on our fire adaptive community.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, City Councilman, Manager Weir. We had a meeting today, so it's our one-a-month meeting, and so this is hot off the press. First thing I was going to cover is grants, but Mr. Manley did a great job talking about the $10 million grant, so I don't need to cover that. The second grant that been discussed earlier, we actually were awarded $74,000 AIM grant. That stands for Action, Implementation, and Mitigation. It's for a full-time person with benefits and probably $20,000 in other costs such as travel and so forth. Materials, postage. Whole purpose is to communicate with owners, residents of the community. And as we move through the summer, you know, we have new information about that we talked about on the $10 million grant. You know, that person would have a good database to reach out and contact those people. Okay, so we're already moving ahead to finish the paperwork on that, thanks to our new grant writer, Rocky Lear. So again, we need to finalize a job description and reporting relationship. Okay, so that's kind of the short-term things. Moving on, there was a visit to Ruidoso, New Mexico last week to review the Defensible Space Ordinance and processing. Mayor was able to contact the mayor of Ruidoso. We actually had 4 people attend. The mayor, Councilman Crane, Manager Weir, and Josh Tandolera, the wildfire team. And I thought, I mean, I'm speaking to the choir here for those that attended, but very productive in terms of understanding what another community that's probably ahead of us has been doing, both in terms of the inspection of their defensible space and you know, the criteria they use. They have 3 people in a forestry department that do inspections regularly. They actually inspect 10% of all the properties every year, which amounts to about 1,200. Boils down to maybe 1.5 per person per day. And I won't go through all of their criteria. We got copies of their, they do give a benefit if you have compliance with respect to the defensible space codes, and they charge more if you're not in compliance, which we talked about here as well. Okay, so that's the defensible space, and again, we are, I guess, continuing to look at that here. Slash processing, this was the real eye-opener. They actually contract out the slash processing, and have for many years. The name of the company now is, what is the name of the company now? It used to be Sierra Contracting, and it's now Universal Waste, I believe it's called, yeah. So the village picks up the slash from the lot owner, homeowner, takes it to an off-site, 20-acre site. They have a huge piece of equipment, and amazing actually, it's called a Hogzilla, almost 100,000 pounds, big drum that they can load with another grapple, not a grapple truck, but a, what do you call it?
Front loader.
Front loader, yeah. And they can actually go through 6,000 cubic yards in an 8-hour shift, okay? And as a byproduct of that, the output of that is such a fine, good material to make compost. They actually sell that, well, they give it to residents for use, but then they actually have a market that they sell that to in the surrounding areas, such as landscape, people, nurseries, and so forth. So the village, or near Ruidoso, pays that contractor $9 a cubic yard to deal with it. So they don't, on their property, have nothing to do with it. They keep up with it. So that's the important thing that we learned. So they also operate, this is with the new owner, they actually operate other facilities like that in other states, like a number in California. And they've actually taken that big machine up to Albuquerque and processed tons of their wood waste. Okay, so as we continue to talk to them, we said, well, okay, would it be possible to come here? And that's a possibility. So in this discussion today at our Fire Adaptive Community Committee, a motion was made and approved and to present tonight to the council. And it was a two-part proposal. Work with Universal Waste on a contract/bid to come to Angel Fire with the Hogzilla to process our 250,000 cubic yards of slash backlog. Number 2, research opportunities to purchase new or used Hogzilla for Angel Fire, and/or contract out the complete process to an organization maybe similar to Universal Waste. So that's our proposal to the council for a future decision. Okay. Third item, last item, we've had conference calls within the last month with Chevron Corporation. Chevron is the owner of the Cuesta mine that's under EPA reclamation. Roughly 1,000 acres that they are slowly, many years, going to be reestablishing plant life, I guess, various types. And there was a call, Manager Weir, Councilman Crane, who else was on that call? Martha Ashley, myself. Okay. So the gist of that meeting is they have been using wastewater treatment sludge and compost from Albuquerque area, the county. They applied roughly 13 tons per acre. They're not completely satisfied. They want another option. So in our call, they actually asked us, what could you do for us? And I think Manager Weir actually offered our wastewater sludge as an option at no cost, or whatever you decide to do. But what they're asking us for future consideration is, what could you provide to us in terms of a soil amendment that would consist of compost and biochar? So that's what we're thinking about now, and I know the slash processing is a #1 priority, but as we move ahead, they have a long-term need at a local, very small, short distance. That's my report from the committee. Any questions or comments?
I'd love to see us trade water rights for mulch.
I even talked to someone today, that said, well, can I back my trailer up and take your compost somewhere else? Well, we'll have to think about that. How much is it worth? Okay, thank you very much.
Great.
I think that'll do it for our committee reports. No old business tonight, so moving on to new business. I'd like to get a motion for discussion action, the approval of a streets committee. That member list would include Yvonne Weber, Amy Oliver, Mike Maloney, Kevin Ricketson, Lori Willis, and Dale Blankenship. And I would ask that we change the council liaison from myself, BJ Lindsay, and insert Councilman Howe, Mayor Pro Tem Howe.
Make a motion for discussion action on approval of a streets committee constituted of Yvonne Weber, Amy Oliver, Mike Maloney, Kevin Ricketson, Lori Willis, Dale Blankenship, with Mayor Pro Tem Howell as council liaison.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
It's a pass.
Moving on to item B, discussion action, I'd like to get a motion for the approval of an airport committee. Voting members being Lawrence Davis, Mark Manley, Jackie Boyd, Bert Lehman, Fraser McPhee, Chuck Hasford, Mike Provine. Non-voting members, Glenn Tillery and Jeff Gilmer. And as far as liaison, I would actually like to serve as liaison on this committee.
Make a motion for discussion approval of forming an airport committee consisting of voting members Lawrence Davis, Mark Manley, Jackie Boyd, Bert Lehman, Fraser McPhee, Chuck Hasford, and Mike Provine. Non-voting members Glenn Tillery, Jeff Gilmer, with council liaison to be BJ Lindsay.
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mike Provine doesn't qualify as a voting member.
We should strike, we should,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't get that. I mean, Mr. Manager?
Mike Provine doesn't live in the village.
Understood.
So we move him down to non-voting.
I think Mike Provine, the intent would be as a consultant, he's the county's engineer.
Mr. Mayor, the county has agreed to allow Mike Provine to work with the committee
As a non-voting
in
member.
development of the operating plan
Okay,
as a non-voting member.
so yeah, I think we should amend the motion.
So I will amend the motion to change Mike Provine from voting member to non-voting member, or do I need to read it in its entirety again?
No,
Okay.
Just need to get a second.
friendly amendment.
Second.
Any discussion?
Excited?
Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Crane, how do you vote?
Aye.
It's a pass.
Thank you. Moving on to item C. I'd like to get a motion for discussion, action, approval of Tim Kelly to be put on the Trails Committee.
Make a motion for discussion action for approval of Tim Kelly to be added to the Trails Committee.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Just for clarification, he was, we just skipped him somehow.
We don't want to do that.
Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
Pass.
Okay, moving on to item D, discussion action. I'd like to get a motion for approval of Thomas McDonald to be appointed to the PID Board of Directors.
Make a motion for discussion action for approval of Thomas McDonald to be added to the PID Board of Directors.
I'll second.
Vote.
Any, looks like we have
I'm
some.
only here if you have any questions.
So this is a replacement or just an addition?
It's a replacement.
Who will be replacing?
Alan Young has resigned, and so we need to have another person on the board.
I have a motion and a second on item C for Tim Kelly on the Trails Committee. No.
You're one down.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I have a motion and a second on item D, approval of Thomas McDonald to the PID Board of Directors. Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
It's a pass.
Moving on to item E, discussion action, approval of resolution 24-24, our planning and zoning fee schedule.
Make a motion for discussion, action, approval of resolution 2024-24, planning and zoning fee schedule.
I'll second.
Santos Martinez is here to speak to our new schedule. If we have any, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just want to add, the amendments you did discuss at your workshop have been incorporated into this draft. There was some additional language that I proposed regarding work done without a permit that says just because you pay the double fee doesn't mean you are exempt from getting a permit actually. So there's some additional language there, and that it should take effect in your next fiscal cycle, not starting tonight, so. I did add the language that the new single-family home construction would be $1,000 with $400 earmarked to a workforce housing fund. And also that the commercial rates mirrored a $600 base rather than a $500 base. If any questions you may have.
I think the only discussion item we had at the work session was the maximum penalty for starting work without a permit.
And that's the last sentence on page 2, that each day may be considered a separate offense with a maximum penalty of $2,000 a day.
I guess my question was less for you, and I think there was a little discussion on it. Was the $2,000 a day good, too much, not enough?
Well, it provides a range, so it could, depending on the penalty, it could be assessed at $500, but it could, there's at least a ceiling instead of just leaving it open-ended. Again, it's at your discretion if you want to adjust that number, but at least it puts on the mark each day that this violation remains in effect can be assessed as a separate violation of this offense.
Just out of curiosity, without naming any particular projects that are currently in violation, I'm assuming we'll have to go back if we vote to adopt this and let them know, hey, you're in violation and the rules have just changed, it's going to cost you more if you choose to stay that way.
Yes, we need to create a new record that you've received notice of violation after the fiscal, if the violation still occurs. We need to start that process so that you were notified on July 7th.
Yep.
We came back on the 17th after a 10-day window. The violation was still in place and you made no effort to remedy the situation. So yes, we would need to start a new record. That said, it's not a high bar. You know, if that violation is still in effect, we should be able to move quickly on it with the notice and with either a stop work order or citation to try to bring them into compliance.
And then you specify multifamily?
Yes, so on page 1, there's a new rate structure for multifamily construction, duplex and multifamily.
That's condos?
Correct.
Okay.
And then there's a separate rate just for commercial that kind of mirrors that. Just to give you perspective, year to date of today, we've issued 12 new single-family permits for construction, which is where we were a year ago during the month of May. Last fiscal year, we issued 25 new single-family construction permits, kind of tracking in the same realm. I do have 2 pending approval from AFPO's consideration, so that number is going to go up.
So I'm sorry, you're tracking at this time last year in May, or the month of May had 12 and we're already at 12?
The month of May last year had 12 total for the month. We are at 12 right now for the month of May. Well, for the year to date, yes, so.
Any other questions?
I have a motion and a second for item E. Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
Pass.
Okay, moving on to item F. Approval of request for bid RFB 2024-01 Streets Department.
Oh, I'm sorry. I make a motion for item F, discussion approval of request for bid 2024-01 Streets Department.
I'll second.
Good evening, gentlemen. So the Streets Department is looking to put out a bid for street materials. This is base course, crusher fines, etc. Pending your approval, this notice of accepting bids will go out tomorrow morning in the paper, be published for 2 weeks, and then the bids will be reviewed after 2 weeks. I'll stand for your questions.
Was the crushed fines, is that the material that was being discussed for the parking lot for the kite, or is that a different material?
That's the asphalt millings.
Millings, okay.
Crusher fines are a byproduct, a product from most gravel pits. And use in road construction.
It's going like into the Taos newspaper?
And this is to get a price agreement set for a year, and every year we do this.
Any further questions?
Item F, Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
Pass.
Moving on to item G, approval for change order 9 at the WWF time extension.
Make a motion for item G, discussion action, approval of change order 9 for the WWTF time extension.
Second.
Okay, gentlemen, this is a change order for the wastewater treatment facility, time extension, because they're waiting on switcher parts and things like that. That is at no cost to us.
Do we know when that's coming in, or?
I believe they're already in.
They're
And
here. They're here.
Yeah.
Substantial completion moving to May 3rd.
Which we're already a little behind. Well, substantial completion is there. I mean, been waiting on this component
Yeah, we're
for a
doing
while.
walkthroughs
Walkthrough was done last week
last week.
on the 9th.
So we have a punch list, but this is something that has to go to the council.
Okay. Further questions?
Item G, Mr. Humbert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
Pass.
Moving on to item H, approval for NTP Community Center Playground and West Side.
Make a motion on item H, discussion action, approval of an NTP for Community Center Playground and West Side.
I'll second.
Good evening, gentlemen. Pretty much it's just, I'm requesting approval to proceed, notice to proceed for the playground in the west side of the building, starting June 15th and to be completed by September 15th with Archuleta Construction.
Any questions for Mrs. Tillage?
Any questions?
Okay.
Glad it's getting done.
Oh, I have one question. What are you gonna do with those? Are those
Those are,
like, whoever wants them can have them?
they're very heavy. We've had many people want them, but nobody can move them. So before it starts, that was something I was gonna have to,
Mr. Mayor, if that item has a value, it'll go up for auction, and the village has their auction. So we just have to hoist them to the boneyard.
Okay.
What item is it that y'all refer
It's
to?
the roof filled cones
The
that are on
big-
top of the playgrounds.
Oh,
they're very heavy, yeah. So. But that's, hopefully by June 15th,
Well,
they'll have to get removed. Actually, I was supposed to
yeah,
have
that's-
bought that property.
Yeah, well, yeah, we know he bought the property, so we were just wondering.
Yeah,
what would-
I was kind of hoping he'd move it, but.
He will. He
Okay.
will. He would be interested in that.
Yeah,
If you
so-
wanted to.
Or the village,
Sure.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? On item H, Mr. Humbert?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
Pass.
Okay, moving on to item I, approval for a bid for the remodeling of Village Hall.
Make a motion for item I, discussion action approval of a bid for remodeling Village Hall.
Second.
Manager Weir, would you like to address it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, back in 2019, we received a very low-interest loan from DFA to remodel Village Hall. Unfortunately, there was never any action taken with those funds other than some engineering work. And so we are now trying to complete that process. The funds must be used for the remodel of Village Hall. They can't be used for anything else. And we have until July the 12th to use them, or they have to be remitted back to the state. We do have we did go out for RFP. We had nobody submit an RFP. And then the next day we had this vendor, which is a CES vendor, submit a bid. So we are asking the council to approve this bid so that we can get started with the remodel. If you haven't seen it, there's a set of plans over here. We can provide plans of exactly what's going to be done, but primarily it's just going to make the building more functional as far as office space go. So there's a lot of dead space in this building, the way it's structured currently, kind of unusable, and we're going to change the wall structure and so that it becomes usable.
In addition to that, we'll also have new LED lighting throughout the facility. We're still on fluorescent, and the fluorescent ballasts and bulbs are getting much harder to get. Obviously, the LED is being much more energy efficient as well. We're also looking at adding a mini split system in this area here. So in the summer months, it's not quite as warm during these council meetings. And it could do supplemental heat in the winter as well. There's going to be a little bit of work done outside. We're going to have.
I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, we're going to.
The deck, yeah, we're going to have the decks coming out, concrete's going in.
Concrete poured for the front deck and the side decks, not the back, but the sides and the front. We're going to have concrete poured for the exit doors in the back. They're out of code right now because they're too small and they're made of wood. We're also going to have all the doors that open in, which is again code violation, our code violation. They will be breakaway doors that open out, and we are going to have the building stuccoed.
Not doing the roof.
Well, and we can't have a change order. Quite frankly, their bid came in well below the amount that we have to spend, and we had actually structured the scope of work to ensure that it would be something we could get in under what we have available. We don't have to spend it all, obviously, but if there are some final upgrades, the roof being one that has been mentioned. It doesn't leak, but it also doesn't look very good. Any other questions?
Item I have a motion and a second. Mr. Humbert?
Aye.
Mr. Weeks?
Aye.
Mr. Crane?
Aye.
Pass.
Moving on to item J, approval of the state fire marshal audit finding and penalty.
Make a motion for item J, discussion action approval of the state fire marshal audit finding and penalty.
I'll second.
Chief Brittenell?
A request that we, according to, you should have a letter in your packets regarding the penalty that was assessed, the $47,641.05 due before May 31st.
Mr. Mayor, just for your information, this money is required to come out of the general fund.
Any discussion, any further discussion? Clerk Grote, we're ready for a vote.
On item J, Mr. Humbert. Aye. Mr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. Crane.
Aye.
Pass.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to item K, approval of a workforce housing employer survey.
Make a motion for discussion approval of item K, approval of workforce housing employer survey.
The survey actually says employee too.
Well, I'm gonna hand out the correct.
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll second.
So my apologies, we got a little ahead of ourselves. The one that's in your packet is the employee survey, and we're only moving on the employer survey tonight.
Thank you for that, Mr. Crane. I understand that I put the wrong
No,
in the
it's
packet.
okay, it's okay. We just approved the employee one yesterday, so we're not quite there yet. So the ask here is that we will be working with an outfit called Typeform to do the survey. That comes with a $50 a month cost. And we will be sending this out to a list of employers that we have started going through. Before we do that, the Workforce Housing Committee is going to do an internal test to make sure everything is formatted right and comes through correctly. The ask will be that we get these surveys back by June 30th to the employers that will respond, and we'll be following up with the employee survey at a future council meeting, hopefully later this month. And this is the final copy that was corrected after the previous village work session. And I have copies if anyone else would like to see it.
I have a motion and a second on item K. Mr. Humbert. Aye. Mr. Weeks.
Aye.
Mr. Crane.
Aye.
Pass.
And finally on our agenda, our manager's report. Manager Weir.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, first of all, I want to start off, I know that Mr. Manley had discussed the grant that we received. I think special thanks needs to go to Mr. Rick Smith of the Cimarron Watershed Alliance, who is the executive director, and Ms. Gina Bonner, who is the president of the Cimarron Watershed Alliance. They both did tremendous work along with the resort in completing the grant request. And Ms. Bonner asked me to just tell everybody that there will be a series of meetings that the Cimarron Watershed Alliance will be scheduling. So they did this, by the way, they got $8 million for the unincorporated area outside of Angel Fire. And they went through, so they've already had experience in this process of getting feedback from the community. You know, it's yet to be determined because the Cimarron Watershed Alliance Board has final say, but I have had conversations with Mr. Smith, and there will be a large focus in this grant on fire breaks to protect the southern and the western edges of the village of Angel Fire. So that'll be a big chunk of it, and then as I think Mr. Manley said earlier, then there will be applications to utilize this money on private lots for thinning. There also is some area that is potential fire danger from the east, which isn't as prevalent, but it does happen. And so there will be some money spent on fire breaks in the undeveloped lots, membership lots, I think people refer to them in that area. There's actually an old road back there that they're going to use, I believe, to expand that. So I just want to give special thanks to Rick Smith and Gina Bonner and the entire board and members of the Cimarron Watershed Alliance for doing this. And this is a project that it's going to take us 5 years to complete. There'll be a lot more work to do, so there'll be additional grants subsequently. I think somebody said we'll apply again in 2026. I did want to announce, I think it was said earlier, that we do have a new grant writer that started this Monday. Many of you may know him. His name is Rocky Lira, and he's already been hard at it. So he's already been invited to several meetings and started at least the preliminary process on one grant that I'm aware of. And so I think Rocky will be a great addition to the team. Not only that, he has extreme experience in technology. He was actually a service provider for IBM for many years. And even though that won't be his primary focus, it's always nice to have an IT guy on staff as opposed to waiting every other Tuesday for my team. The finance department has made some progress. As you know, when this leadership team took over, there had been no work done for the fiscal year ending June of 2024. And at this point, we have made it through December. I don't know that everybody can appreciate how much work that is, but basically, in about a 2.5 month period, we did 6 months worth of work in the finance department. So we still have a lot more work to do. There are some real challenges, and one of the frustrations my staff is feeling is it seems like every time we take a step forward, we find another problem, and it's another step backwards or 2 steps backwards. But we hope to work through all of that and hopefully have that all worked out by the end of June. I want to inform everybody that we do have our first budget meeting this coming Thursday at 2 p.m. Right here in this chamber. And this will be, so as you know, the budget process calls for 2 public hearings. The first one, historically, the way that I did it previously at the village and the way we're going to do it here is the first one will be department heads presenting to council their budgets and their what they're asking for. They've already gone through one round with me with feedback, but I think some of the information, there's going to be needed additional cuts, but I think it's fine-tuned down to the point where we need to bring it to council and get feedback from council on priorities. So this one will be that, the department heads presenting their budgets with the priorities that they see. The second one, we will need to schedule a date. I would like to try and do it on the 28th. I'm concerned just because my finance staff has spent so much time getting caught up. There are some schedules that need to be done that are required to be filed, supplemental schedules that the finance staff will have to do. So I do have a little bit of concern that the 28th, we may need as late as the 30th. And right now I'm not asking for an exact date for that final budget hearing. I'm going to ask the council to be aware that it's going to be the 28th, 29th, or 30th because the budget will have to be submitted on June 1st. To comply with statute, but it depends on how quickly we can get these supplemental schedules done and ready to present to the council. So we will have a public hearing, and if we do it on the 28th, we can then have it on the agenda for approval in the council meeting that's already scheduled for the 28th. But if we have to do it on the 29th or 30th, we'll have a public hearing in which no decisions will be made, and then immediately follow up with a special council meeting to approve the budget. So just be aware, and hopefully in the next week or so, we'll be able to have a better feel for what those the exact day for those hearings and that vote will be. But we'll have no choice. It'll have to be no later than the 30th.
Anything else,
That's
Manager?
all my report.
All right, with that, thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned.
Yeah. Yeah, I got plenty. Do you want the employee and the employer, or just the employer? Give me a minute, I shuffle my papers over there.
Yeah, I had, Dennis had them for this one.
There you go. Okay, so that's the employee.